Welcome to Horrified Stories, where fear comes to life. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales. Let's start our today's story. Supernatural events in the Old Forest. A creepy tale. The Whispering Woods. The Old Forest had a reputation. For as long as anyone in the neighboring village could remember, it was a place of mystery and fear. Tales of disappearances, eerie whispers, and inexplicable lights haunted the minds of anyone who dared venture too close. Most villagers avoided the forest altogether, content to leave its secrets undisturbed. But for a group of curious friends, Emma, Liam, Clara, and Ben, the lure of the unknown proved too enticing to resist. A dare. It began with a conversation on a crisp autumn evening. The four friends Saturday around a fire pit in Liam's backyard, sipping cocoa and swapping urban legends. Clara, the group's skeptic, smirked as Liam recounted one of the most infamous tales about the forest. They say that if you walk deep enough, you'll hear voices calling your name, Liam said, his eyes wide for dramatic effect. And if you follow them, you never come back. Please, Clara scoffed. It's just a bunch of old stories to keep kids from wandering off. There's no such thing as ghosts or haunted forests. Emma shivered, pulling her jacket tighter. Maybe, but what about the lights? My grandmother swore she saw glowing orbs floating through the trees when she was younger. Probably swamp gas, Clara replied, or fireflies. Ben, the quietest of the group, finally spoke up. What about the hikers? The ones who vanished last year. They were experienced, and they never found their bodies. The fire crackled, filling the silence that followed. Liam grinned mischievously. There's only one way to find out. Let's go. Emma's eyes widened. Go where? You're not serious. Why not? Liam challenged. We'll go tomorrow. During the day, just a quick walk to see if there's anything to the stories. Besides, we'll all be together. What's the worst that could happen? Entering the forest. The next morning, the group met at the edge of the old forest. The towering trees loomed overhead, their twisted branches forming a canopy that blocked out most of the sunlight. A faint, earthy smell filled the air, and the only sound was the distant rustle of leaves in the breeze. This is a bad idea, Emma muttered, hesitating at the tree line. Relax, Liam said, slinging a backpack over his shoulder. We'll stick to the main path. We're just here to debunk some old myths. The group ventured into the forest, their footsteps crunching on the fallen leaves. At first, everything seemed normal, just trees, bushes, and the occasional chirp of birds. But as they walked deeper, an unsettling stillness began to creep in. The air grew colder, and the usual sounds of the forest faded until there was only silence. Is it just me, or does it feel different? Ben asked, breaking the quiet. Clara rolled her eyes. It's just your imagination. This place isn't haunted. Then why does it feel like we're being watched? Emma whispered, glancing over her shoulder. Liam laughed nervously. Come on, guys, don't freak yourselves out. Let's keep going. The first signs. After an hour of walking, the group came across a small clearing. In the center stood an ancient oak tree, its gnarled roots protruding from the ground like skeletal fingers. Strange symbols were carved into its bark, patterns that looked both random and deliberate. What the hell is that? Ben asked, kneeling to examine the carvings. Clara frowned. Probably some kids messing around. They don't mean anything. Emma shook her head. No, they're too intricate for that. Look at the etch sites like they've been here for years. Liam pulled out his phone to take a picture, but the screen flickered and went black. That's weird. My battery was full this morning. Ben checked his watch and frowned. Mine stopped working too. Emma pulled out her phone, which also refused to turn on. Okay, this is officially creepy. It's a coincidence, Clara insisted, though her voice wavered. Maybe there's some kind of magnetic interference or something. As the group debated, a low whisper drifted through the clearing. It was faint at first, barely audible, but it grew louder, weaving through the air like an invisible thread. The voices were indistinct, overlapping and blending together in a haunting melody. Did you hear that? Emma asked, her face pale. Yeah, Liam said, his bravado fading. It's probably just the wind. That's not the wind, Ben said, his voice trembling. It's coming from over there. He pointed toward a dense thicket on the far side of the clearing. The path splits. The group hesitated, torn between curiosity and fear. Finally, Clara sighed and took the lead. Let's just check it out. If it's nothing, we can go back. The thicket gave way to a narrow, overgrown trail. As they followed it, the whispers grew louder, more distinct. Emma swore she heard her name, soft and beckoning. Guys, I don't like this, she said, stopping in her tracks. It feels wrong. We've come this far, Liam said, though his confidence sounded forced. Let's just see where it leads. The trail opened into another clearing, this one dominated by a dilapidated cabin. The roof sagged, and the windows were broken, but the door stood slightly ajar, as if inviting them in. Absolutely not, Emma said, backing away. We are not going in there. Ben stared at the cabin, his face pale. We have to. What if someone's inside? What if they need help? Liam nodded, though he looked as uneasy as the rest of them. Ben's right. Let's at least take a look. Inside the cabin, the interior of the cabin was dark and musty. The air thick with the scent of decay. Dust covered every surface, and the floorboards creaked under their weight. Strange symbols, similar to those on the tree, were carved into the walls. A single table Saturday in the center of the room, with an old, leather-bound book resting on it. Claire picked up the book, flipping through its yellowed pages. It's some kind of journal, she said, but it's in a language I don't recognize. Emma peered over her shoulder, her unease growing. Whoever wrote this, they weren't right in the head. Look at the drawings, those things don't look human. As they examined the journal, a loud crash echoed from deeper within the cabin. The group frowned, their eyes darting toward the source of the sound. What was that? Ben whispered. Before anyone could answer, the whispers returned, louder and more insistent. The door slammed shut behind them, and the room plunged into darkness. The secrets of the cabin. The room was suffocating in its darkness, the air thick with an unidentifiable tension. The whispers grew louder, swirling around the group like an invisible wind. Emma clung to Ben's arm, her breathing ragged. Liam fumbled in his pocket for his flashlight, but the device refused to turn on. Why isn't it working? Liam muttered, smacking the flashlight against his palm. Something doesn't want us here, Emma whispered, her voice trembling. We need to leave. Clara's confidence was beginning to crack. She tightened her grip on the leather-bound journal, her eyes darting toward the shadows. We can't just leave. Not yet. This book has something important in it. What could possibly be more important than getting out of here alive? Ben stepped. Before Clara could respond, the whispers stopped abruptly, leaving an eerie silence in their wake. The sudden quiet was deafening, making the creak of the floorboards beneath their feet seem unnaturally loud. And then, the door to the cabin slammed open. The stranger, a cold wind rushed through the room, extinguishing any lingering warmth. Standing in the doorway was a figure, barely visible in the dim light. Their face was obscured by a hood, and they held a lantern that flickered with an unnatural blue flame. Who's there? Liam demanded, his voice shaking. The figure stepped forward, their movement slow and deliberate. When they spoke, their voice was low and raspy, as though it hadn't been used in years. You shouldn't be here. Well, we didn't mean to trespass, Emma stammered. We were just... The figure raised a hand, silencing her. The forest does not forgive curiosity. It takes what it is owed. What does that mean? Clara asked, stepping forward despite the unease in her gut. Who are you? The figure didn't answer. Instead, they turned their attention to the journal in Clara's hands. You've opened the book. Clara hesitated, clutching the journal tighter. It was just lying here. We didn't mean any harm. The hooded figure chuckled darkly. You've already done harm. The forest has awakened. The journal's truth. The figure motioned for the group to sit at the cabin's decrepit table. Reluctantly, they obeyed, though every instinct screamed at them to run. The lantern's eerie glow cast strange, shifting shadows on the walls. The book, the figure said, pointing to it. Do you know what it is? Clara shook her head. It looks like a journal, but it's written in a language I don't recognize. It is a journal, the figure confirmed. A record of those who came before you, those who sought the secrets of the old forest and paid the price. Ben leaned forward, his fear giving way to curiosity. What kind of price? The figure's hollow eyes seemed to bore into him. Their souls. The forest does not release those who disturb it. Once you step within its boundaries, you belong to it. Emma's eyes filled with tears. That's not true. We can leave. We've barely gone that far in. Right. The figure didn't answer, instead gesturing toward the journal. The answers you seek are within those pages. But be warned, knowledge comes with its own price. The first entry. Clara hesitated before opening the book again. The pages seemed heavier now, as though imbued with a malevolent energy. The first entry was written in jagged, hurried script, the words barely legible. Day 1. The whispers began as soon as we entered the forest. They called our names, luring us deeper. We thought it was the wind. We were wrong. Clara's voice faltered as she read aloud. The room seemed to darken, the shadows growing longer. She flipped to the next page, her heart pounding. Day 3. We found the cabin. The symbols on the walls are warnings. Or are they invitations? I can't tell anymore. Something watches us from the trees. Then shifted uncomfortably. That's enough. We don't need to know anymore. But Clara was already turning the page. The words on the next entry were scrawled in red, as though written in blood. Day 7. It's too late. The forest has taken them. I'm the only one left. If you're reading this, leave while you still can. Burn the book. Do not look back. A growing threat. Burn the book. Emma repeated, her voice rising. That's it. That's the solution. The hooded figure shook their head. Burning the book will not save you. The moment you stepped into the forest, your fate was sealed. Then why are you even telling us this? Liam demanded. What are we supposed to do? There may be a way, the figure said slowly, but it will not be easy. The forest does not let go without a fight. What way? Clara pressed. Tell us. The figure leaned forward, their voice dropping to a whisper. There is an altar deep within the forest. It predates the village, the cabin. Even the oldest of these trees perform the ritual there, and you might break the forest's hold on you. What kind of ritual? Emma asked warily. The figure hesitated before responding. You must offer something of great value, something irreplaceable. The forest demands a sacrifice. The journey begins. The group exchanged uneasy glances. The thought of venturing deeper into the forest was terrifying, but the alternative, being trapped forever, was worse. We don't have a choice, Clara said, standing. We have to do this. Emma looked at her, her eyes wide with fear. What if it doesn't work? What if it just makes things worse? It's a risk we have to take, Liam said, though his voice wavered. We can't just stay here and wait for whatever's out there to find us. The figure handed Clara a piece of parchment with a rough map drawn on it. This will guide you to the altar, but be warned, the forest will not make it easy. What do you mean? Ben asked. The forest is alive, the figure said. It knows you're trying to escape. It will do everything in its power to stop you. The group nodded, their determination growing despite the fear gnawing at them. They stepped out of the cabin, the map clutched tightly in Clara's hand. The hooded figure watched them go, their lantern flickering ominously. Good luck, they murmured. You'll need it. The forest fights back. The group moved cautiously through the dense forest, following the crude map the hooded figure had provided. The path twisted and turned, leading them deeper into the heart of the old forest. The trees grew taller and more twisted, their gnarled branches forming sinister shapes that seemed to reach for the group as they passed. The whispers had returned, faint but persistent, weaving through the air like a dark melody. Each step they took felt heavier, as if the forest itself were trying to push them back. This place is alive, Emma said, her voice trembling. It doesn't want us here. Just keep moving, Liam replied, though he sounded as uneasy as the rest of them. We have the map. We'll find the altar. The first challenge, the trail abruptly ended at a wide, murky swamp. The water was still and black, reflecting the distorted silhouettes of the trees above. The map indicated that the path continued on the other side, but there was no visible way to cross. Great, Clara muttered. Now what? We can't go around, it'll take too long. Ben scanned the swamp, his brow furrowed. There's a narrow log over there. We could use it to cross. The log looked precarious at best, half submerged and slick with moss. The thought of stepping onto it made Emma's stomach turn. What if we fall in? Who knows what's in that water? We don't have a choice, Clara said, her voice firm. I'll go first. Before anyone could protest, she stepped onto the log, her arms outstretched for balance. The wood creaked ominously under her weight, but she moved steadily across. When she reached the other side, she turned back and waved. See, it's fine. Liam followed next, then Emma. As Ben stepped onto the log, the whispers grew louder, almost taunting. He frowned, glancing nervously at the water. Hurry up, Liam called. You're fine. But just as Ben took another step, the log shifted violently. A pale, skeletal hand emerged from the water, grabbing at his ankle. He screamed, struggling to keep his balance as the others shouted in panic. Pull him up, Clara yelled. Liam and Emma rushed to the edge of the swamp, grabbing Ben's arms and yanking him forward. The hand released its grip, disappearing beneath the surface as quickly as it had appeared. Ben collapsed onto the ground, gasping for breath. What the hell was that? He panted. The forest, Clara said grimly, is testing us. The unearthly fog. The group pressed on, shaken but determined. As they walked, a thick fog began to roll in, obscuring the path ahead. The map was useless now. They could barely see a few feet in front of them. We're lost, Emma said, her voice tinged with panic. We're completely lost. No, we're not, Clara insisted, though her confidence was waning. We just need to keep going in the same direction. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, and with them came faint shapes in the mist. They looked like people, their outlines flickering like shadows cast by an unseen light. Do you see that? Ben asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Liam nodded, his grip tightening on the flashlight that still refused to work. Yeah, and I don't think we should go any closer. But the shapes began to move, drifting toward them with an unnatural grace. One of them stopped a few feet away, his face coming into focus. It was a young woman, her eyes hollow and lifeless, her mouth twisted into a mournful expression. Help me, she whispered, her voice echoing unnaturally. Please. Emma stepped back, her heart racing. She's not real. She can't be real. The figure's head snapped toward her, its eyes locking onto hers. Don't leave me, it pleaded, reaching out a hand. Run, Clara said, grabbing Emma's arm. Run now. The shadows closed in. They sprinted through the fog, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. The shadowy figures followed, their whispers rising into a chaotic chorus. The forest seemed to twist and shift around them, making it impossible to tell where they were going. We're going in circles, Liam shouted. This is impossible. Clara stopped abruptly, holding up the map. Wait, the altar is close. Look. The map showed a clearing just ahead, marked by a crude symbol of a circle. They pushed forward, their legs aching, until they broke through the fog and into a small, open space. In the center of the clearing was the altar, a massive stone slab covered in moss and strange carvings. It pulsed faintly with a blue light, casting eerie shadows on the surrounding trees. We made it, Emma breathed, collapsing onto her knees. We actually made it. The ritual begins. Clara approached the altar cautiously, the journal in one hand and the map in the other. The carvings on the stone matched the symbols in the book, confirming they were in the right place. What now? Ben asked, glancing nervously at the trees. The whispers had stopped, but the forest felt far from calm. Clara flipped through the journal, stopping at a page marked with a jagged X. This is its ritual. We need to recite these words and leave something behind. What kind of something? Liam asked. Something valuable, Something personal. The forest demands a sacrifice. Emma frowned, pulling out her necklace, a simple silver chain with a locket that had belonged to her grandmother. Will this work? Clara nodded. It has to be enough. Place it on the altar. Emma hesitated, then set the necklace on the stone. The blue light grew brighter, and the air around them vibrated with an unseen energy. Now the words, Clara said, her voice steady. She began to read from the journal, the ancient language rolling off her tongue. The others joined in, their voices shaky but determined. As the final word was spoken, the ground trembled, and a deafening roar echoed through the forest. The blue light flared, blinding them for a moment. When it faded, the altar was dark, and the necklace was gone. Did it work? Ben asked, his voice barely audible. Before anyone could answer, a low, guttural growl sounded from the shadows. The tree shuddered, and a massive, black shape emerged from the darkness, its glowing eyes fixed on the group. The forest's guardian, the monstrous figure, loomed over the group, its glowing eyes burning like twin embers in the darkness. Its form was indistinct, constantly shifting as if made of smoke and shadow. Every movement seemed to ripple through the air, distorting reality around it. Emma stumbled backward, her heart pounding in her chest. What is that thing? The guardian, Clara whispered, clutching the journal to her chest. The book mentioned it. It protects the forest. Protects it from what? Ben asked, his voice trembling. From us, Clara said grimly. The creature let out another guttural growl, his voice reverberating through the clearing like thunder. The air grew colder, and the faint blue light from the altar flickered weakly, as if afraid of the beast's presence. The guardian's warning. The creature stepped closer, its massive form blotting out the faint moonlight that filtered through the trees. As it moved, the ground beneath their feet seemed to pulse in rhythm with its steps. It stopped just short of the altar, its glowing eyes narrowing as it studied the group. You have trespassed, the guardian growled, its voice deep and resonant, like the sound of an ancient tree groaning in the wind. The forest demands penance. Liam raised his hands defensively. We didn't mean any harm. We just wanted to. The guardian's roar cut him off, shaking the very air around them. Silence. The forest cares not for your intentions. You have taken from it, disturbed its peace. Now it will take from you. Clara stepped forward, her voice shaking but firm. We performed the ritual. We gave an offering. Isn't that enough? The guardian's eyes flickered, its form shifting slightly. The ritual binds, but the offering must match the transgression. A token is not enough. You must offer more. Emma's face paled. What more could we possibly give? The creature didn't answer directly. Instead, he raised a clawed hand and pointed toward the forest. The path awaits. Prove your worth, or be consumed. The trial of shadows. Before anyone could protest, the ground beneath the group split open, revealing a jagged chasm filled with darkness. The altar cracked in half, and a narrow, winding path formed, leading deeper into the forest. What is this? Liam asked, staring at the path in disbelief. The trial, Clara said, her voice barely above a whisper. She flipped through the journal, scanning the pages. It says here that the forest tests those who seek to escape. If we pass, we'll be allowed to leave. And if we fail? Ben asked. Clara looked up, her expression grim. We don't fail. The group hesitated for a moment before stepping onto the path. The guardian watched silently, its glowing eyes following their every move. As they walked, the forest seemed to close in around them, the trees growing denser and the air heavier. The illusions began. The path led them into a dark grove, where the whispers returned, louder and more distinct than before. The voices seemed to come from all directions, calling their names in familiar tones. Emma, help me. Emma frowned. The voice was soft and broken, but unmistakable. That's my mom, she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. It's not real, Clara said firmly, grabbing her arm. The forest is trying to trick us, but it sounds just like her. Emma insisted. What if she's here? What if she? Don't listen to it, Liam snapped. It's a trap. As they argued, the whispers intensified, joined by flickering images in the darkness. Emma saw her mother, standing just off the path, her arms outstretched. Liam saw his younger brother, lost in the trees, calling for help. Ben saw his late grandfather, motioning for him to come closer. "They're not real," Clara repeated, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Don't leave the path. Whatever you do, stay on the path." One by one, the apparitions dissolved as the group resisted their pull, but the forest wasn't done with them yet. The maze of roots. The path suddenly split into three, each root twisting and turning into an impenetrable maze of roots and brambles. The air grew colder, and the ground beneath their feet felt unstable, as though it could give way at any moment. "Which way do we go?" Ben asked, panic creeping into his voice. Clara examined the map, but the paths weren't marked. "I don't know. It doesn't say." The whispers returned, more insistent than ever, and with them came a faint glow from the leftmost path. "This way," Emma said, moving toward the light. "No," Clara said, pulling her back. "The forest wants us to choose wrong. We have to think this through." The group argued, their fear mounting, until Ben took a step forward. "We can't just stand here. I'll go first." Before anyone could stop him, Ben chose the middle path and disappeared into the maze. The others called after him, but their voices were swallowed by the forest. Reluctantly, they followed, their hearts pounding as the maze seemed to close in around them. The final confrontation. After what felt like hours of wandering, the group emerged into another clearing. This one was dominated by a massive tree, its trunk carved with countless symbols that glowed faintly in the darkness. At its base was a pool of black water, perfectly still and unnervingly reflective. The guardian reappeared, its form more solid now, as if it had drawn strength from the forest trials. "You have reached the heart of the forest," it said, "but your trial is not yet complete." "What more do you want from us?" Emma cried, tears streaming down her face. "We've done everything you asked." The guardian pointed to the pool. "The final offering. One of you must enter the water. Only then will the forest release the others." The group fell silent, the weight of the demand sinking in. Clara looked at the journal, flipping through its pages for any alternative. "There has to be another way," she said desperately. "This isn't fair." "The forest does not deal in fairness," the guardian said. "It deals in balance." Emma stepped forward, her hands shaking. "I'll do it. I'll go." "No," Dan said, grabbing her arm. "We'll find another way." "There is no other way," Emma said, her voice steady despite her fear. "If this is what it takes to save us, then I'll do it." She approached the pool, the others watching helplessly. As she stepped into the water, the surface rippled, and the whispers grew deafening. The forest seemed to hold its breath as Emma disappeared beneath the surface. A bargain with the forest. The black water swallowed Emma whole, leaving the surface eerily calm. The whispers faded, replaced by a suffocating silence. Clara, Liam, and Ben stood frowning at the edge of the pool, their eyes fixed on the spot where Emma had disappeared. "She's gone," Ben whispered, his voice trembling. "No," Clara said, her grip tightening on the journal. "She's still in there. The forest isn't finished with her yet." The guardian stood silently beside the massive tree, its glowing eyes unblinking. "The offering has been made. Now we wait." "For what?" Liam demanded, turning on the creature. "What happens to her?" The guardian didn't respond, his form shifting slightly as if it were part of the shadows themselves. The group's tension grew unbearable as they waited, the minutes stretching into what felt like hours. Beneath the surface, Emma opened her eyes to find herself submerged in a dark, endless expanse. The water wasn't cold, it felt weightless, almost like air, but it pressed against her, as if it carried the weight of the entire forest. She tried to scream, but no sound escaped her lips. Then the whispers returned, louder and clearer than ever. This time, they weren't scattered voices, but a singular, commanding presence. "Why have you come here?" the voice asked, deep and resonant. Emma looked around, but there was no one in the darkness. "We didn't mean to disturb anything," she said, her voice shaking. "We just wanted to understand the forest." You seek understanding, the voice replied, but the forest does not offer knowledge without a price. It takes what it is owed. I offered my necklace, Emma said, desperation creeping into her tone. Isn't that enough? The voice seemed to laugh. A deep, rumbling sound that made the water ripple around her. A trinket is not enough to atone for your intrusion. You must give something of true value. Emma's chest tightened. What does the forest want from me? Your essence, the voice replied. Your life, but not to end, to change. What does that mean? Emma asked, her heart racing. It means you will become part of the forest, the voice said, its guardian, its protector. In exchange, your friends will go free. A choice. On the surface, the stillness of the pool was broken as Emma emerged, gasping for air. Clara, Liam, and Ben rushed to her side, pulling her out of the water. Emma, Clara exclaimed, are you okay? What happened? Emma coughed, water streaming from her hair. Her eyes were distant, as though she had seen something beyond comprehension. The forest spoke to me, she said. It gave me a choice. What kind of choice? Ben asked cautiously. Emma looked at each of them, her expression solemn. I can stay here, become part of the forest, and it'll let you go, or we all stay. That's insane, Liam said. We're not leaving you behind. There has to be another way. There isn't, Emma said firmly. The forest made that very clear. This is the only way to save you. Clara shook her head, tears streaming down her face. No, we came here together, and we're leaving together. We'll find another way. There is no other way, Emma snapped. If we fight the forest, it'll kill us all. This is the only way to break the curse. The final farewell. The guardian stepped forward, its glowing eyes fixed on Emma. You have made your decision, it said. Step forward and take your place. Wait, Clara said, grabbing Emma's arm. You don't have to do this. There has to be another way. Emma gently pulled away, giving Clara a sad smile. You were right, Clara. The forest is alive. It's ancient, and it's angry, but it doesn't have to be our enemy. Maybe I can help it find peace. Ben and Liam looked on helplessly as Emma stepped toward the guardian. The creature extended its hand, a shadowy form blending into Emma's as she reached out to touch it. A bright light engulfed the clearing, forcing the others to shield their eyes. When the light faded, Emma was gone, and the guardian stood taller, its form more defined. The whispers were gone, replaced by a deep stillness. A new beginning. The path back to the edge of the forest was clear now, the oppressive weight of the trees lifting. Clara, Liam, and Ben walked in silence, their hearts heavy with the loss of their friend. When they reached the forest's edge, the hooded figure was waiting for them. You succeeded, they said simply. The forest has released you. At what cost? Clara asked bitterly. The figure tilted their head. The forest is cruel, but it is just. Your friend made her choice, and in doing so, she has brought balance. What will happen to her? Ben asked. She will become one with the forest, the figure said, its new guardian, bound to it forever. As they stepped beyond the forest's boundary, the air felt lighter, the world brighter, but the loss of Emma weighed heavily on their hearts. Epilogue. Months later, Clara returned to the edge of the forest, drawn by an unshakable feeling. She stood at the boundary, staring into the dense trees. Emma, she called softly. The wind rustled the leaves, carrying with it a faint whisper that sounded like her friend's voice. I'm here, it said. Clara smiled sadly, placing a hand on the nearest tree. I hope you're at peace. And with that, she turned and walked away, leaving the forest and its secrets behind. If you like this story, don't forget to hit the like button, share and subscribe the channel. Help us grow. Thanks for watching.